G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. Let's go. Am I the asshole for lying to my son about his paternity? So my son's father just got out of prison and contacted me about seeing him. He was in jail awaiting trial when my son Ken was born, and I did not put his name on the birth certificate. When I got married, my husband adopted Ken. Ken is 16 now, and he had no idea his dad isn't his biological father. I was at a crossroads, but I decided that since Ken is almost an adult, I had to be honest with him. My husband and I sat Ken down and told him the truth and that his bio father wanted to meet him. Ken was furious with me and didn't want to finish talking to us. He went to his friend's house. Ken didn't give me a chance to explain why I did what I did. I wanted Ken to have a happy and normal childhood, unburdened by the knowledge that his father is a criminal. I wanted him to have a healthy male role model. Ken has thrived and is doing great in school. He has friends and even mentors middle schoolers through a program at school. I think my deception helped him. Still, my son feels betrayed and currently won't answer my calls. My husband managed to get a text saying he is okay and just to give him space, but that's all. Was I wrong for trying to protect him? In the comments, you're the asshole. Quote, I wanted Ken to have a happy, normal childhood, unburdened by the knowledge that his father is a criminal. You didn't have to tell Ken his bio father is a criminal to let him know that his dad is not his biological father. You kept this secret too long and blindsided a 16-year-old with this info. I'm not sure how you thought that was helpful to Ken, because he now has to process all of this at 16, rather than it being something he grew up with and could ask questions about as he grew curious or was old enough to understand context. You're the asshole. Truly protecting him would have been to tell him from the time he was little, in age-appropriate ways, that your husband adopted him, not dropping this on him when he was 16 and only because you had to. There is way too much information out there about the harm that is caused by lying to a child about being adopted for you to be innocent. You should have told him sooner. Adoptee here, you're the asshole, more for the defensiveness you're showing now than for what you actually did in the past. Good intentions don't change the fact that you messed up. I think my deception helped him. How can you say that when clearly it has hurt him very much? My parents were always honest with me about the fact that I was adopted, in an age-appropriate way. I love both of them a lot and we have a great relationship, but in my early 30s when I found my birth parents through Ancestry DNA, I found out that my mum and dad had lied to me, both directly and by omission, about several things. I told them how crappy that felt that they lied to me and hid information from me. My parents apologized for the harm they caused, even though it was well-intentioned. They were able to express that they were genuinely sorry and that after listening to my point of view, they would have made different choices looking back. Because of this, they were able to move past it, and now we are closer than ever. It meant so much to me that they really took in what I explained to them, and that they made the effort and confronted uncomfortable feelings in order to understand my point of view. It is not too late to salvage this. Think deeply about what you did and why it was hurtful. Listen to him. Really listen without getting defensive. Accept that you made a mistake and caused harm, and then tell him that and apologize. Make amends. That's your only path to restoring this relationship. Being defensive is not going to get you anywhere. Good luck. Seriously. I hope you can work it out. And now, onto the update. I know most people here think I'm a terrible mother, so you probably don't want to hear from me again. However, if anyone out there is struggling with a similar situation to the one that I had, maybe this can help you. My son and I sat down and had a long talk. He wanted to know everything about his biological father. I told him there are some things I would prefer not to tell him, but would if he insisted. He insisted, so I told him everything. It was very hard for him, and he had a lot of complicated emotions about it. He asked if his biological father knows where we live. He doesn't. All he has is my email. However, we aren't exactly hidden, and finding us is a possibility. I asked if he wanted me to respond to the email or ignore it. My son asked me to email his biological father and ask him to leave us alone. He asked if his bio father knows our current last name, and I said that he shouldn't. He told me that he's hurt that I lied to him. He feels like he can't trust me as much as he once did. I told him I was sorry, and that part of growing up is learning that parents aren't perfect and don't have all the answers / always make the right choices. He had a long talk with my husband. He said he still considers my husband dad, and they hugged it out. All in all, I regret my decision. I think it would have been better to tell him at a younger age that his dad isn't his biological dad. Then he would have had time to adjust instead of finding everything out at once. As it is, this is a huge revelation to deal with at a time in his life where he has already got a lot on his shoulders. In the comments, maybe get your son a couple of therapy sessions so he can talk out his feelings about stuff. The main thing he needs is time to process and to not be pushed to trust against his will. He will regain his trust of you if your actions and words prove that you love him and feel remorseful for how much it hurt him. This is unfortunately one of the things a lot of parents do wrong, even when relatively good parents. Younger kids handle this information better than older ones, which seems counterintuitive, but younger kids don't understand what normal is yet, while an older kid does and understands the ramifications more, so it hurts a lot more. It also sounds like your son is actually kind of worried about Biodad trying to track you down, so you might want to talk to his school, coaches, etc. to let them know if X shows up to talk to your son, to please send him away and talk as a family about a plan of what to say and do if he shows up at the house. What kind of robbery led to a 16-year conviction? This sounds like it must have been pretty violent to get this kind of sentence. Armed robbery can be up to 20 years in the US. In my state, strong-arm robbery can have a maximum of 15 years, armed robbery can have a maximum of 30 years, Florida, probably including something more than just a simple breaking and entering. This is so sad. It's a total crapshoot of deciding the best time and age and how much heavy adult crap to share with your child without unnecessarily overburdening them. OP handled the fallout as best she could, and hopefully her son will gain the perspective to see the intentions behind her decisions sooner rather than later. From the follow-up, it certainly seems like they are both trying. It's clear OP was coming from a place of love, and seems to accept she was an asshole originally, even if I don't share that view. I don't think she's an asshole, but she made the wrong call about something fundamentally impactful about the life of her child. It is hard to mend things from that. From the perspective of Ken, his parents just lied about this for his entire life, so they are willing to hide this from him. What else are they hiding? Our next post is titled, "I want something horrible to happen to my husband." My husband was horrible and downright abusive to me when I gave birth. It started right when I was in the hospital. He did horrible things to me, like kicking me out of the room when I was crying because of the hormones and the pain of giving birth. He said my crying was disturbing the baby. He did many such things for the first month of my son's life, and my health got worse. There were complications. I needed more surgeries. It was a horrible period. Before this, my husband was never a person to even raise his voice. He was never this way, but something flipped the moment he saw his son. This behavior lasted a month, and it was like a switch flipped again, and he was back to being the husband I've always had. Since then, he's been trying so hard to make up for his behavior. It's been 17 months since my son was born, and he does so much to make up for the way that he behaved. He does so much for me and the baby. He barely even sleeps. He treats me like a queen. But I can't forget. I have this rage inside me I've never felt in my life. I have severe mental health issues, postpartum depression, psychosis, you name it. I'm able to live day to day playing house. I truly appreciate all that he does for this family, but I am so angry. So much anger. Every day I daydream about something horrible happening to him, and when he looks to me for support, I will unleash hell on earth. I want him to suffer. I want him to know exactly what he put me through. I feel guilty because in the 7 years we had together, he had a temporary lapse in sanity for a month. He must have been overwhelmed with everything. He works so hard every day for us. I'm blessed to have him, but this burning rage inside me is tearing me apart. Edit, I've been asked to add this comment into the post itself. I've communicated to my husband that I'm very resentful of the way that he treated me, and it's eating me up. He just hangs his head in shame and says nothing. Certain things he did just fundamentally broke me. He got in my face and screamed at me because the baby had jaundice. He said it was my fault. He wanted to start formula. I was making a lot of milk. With the bleeding and cracked nipples, I was feeding him as much as I could. I pumped and checked, and I was making a lot. But he got angry and physically shoved me when I was maybe 2 days postpartum after a C-section. He told me he would never trust me as a mother and grabbed the baby from me. I was crying so much, the nurses in the hospital had to interfere. When the baby was 2 weeks old, I found him on Reddit trying to get nudes from someone. I was shattered. He immediately started apologizing. He tried so hard to hide it. I immediately told his parents, and they begged me not to get a divorce and to wait until I was well enough to make decisions. He was so ashamed of his behavior after that, and he's been trying so hard. After that incident, I got a bunch of complications from birth, and things snowballed from there, and I did not have the time to process any of it. 7 years we were happy. That's why I'm confused. He would do anything for me. I don't know what happened for him to treat me that way. In the comments, you need help. Please get it. I know your husband treated you like garbage during your pregnancy. Have you talked to him about it? If not, you need to. You said your husband does a lot for you and your baby. You gotta get help and let it go before you do something that you can't take back. Both you and your husband need consulting for your family's sake. Please get counseling immediately and checked out for depression and anxiety. Just remember that abusive asshole is lurking inside your husband, just itching to get out again. There is no excuse for his behavior. And OP replies, "Thank you. I'm going to therapy for postpartum depression and PTSD from the whole thing. I'm scared to start medication, so I'm working with a therapist first. I wish I knew what to think. He's been nothing but wonderful before and after those few weeks. It's just so confusing. He works so hard to make up for it." Well then, he needs some therapy too. New babies and sleep deprivation makes us do crazy things, so forgiveness needs to happen. Once he's figured out just what the heck happened, discuss it with you and properly apologize. From some of your later replies, he's just at a complete loss and sounds defeated. Don't let it hang around and spoil your relationship any longer. PPD and PPP can actually happen to fathers too. Maybe that was happening to him during that month, if his behavior really was completely out of character. And if you're not still nursing and your therapist recommends it, I would really try the medication OP. They can be lifesavers if your brain chemistry is still out of whack. What does your therapist say about your resentment towards your husband? OP replies, "Yes, that's what I was thinking as well. I'm trying to look past it, but he took my baby from me. He shoved me after a major surgery. I can't even start to describe the pain. He called me names and screamed at me. I accidentally fell asleep from exhaustion once, and he poked me very hard on my chest to wake me up, and I started crying because my breasts were already sore and my nipples were bleeding, and he rolled his eyes and ignored me and left the room. This was in the hospital. My head is reeling when I think about how I even survived all of that. I haven't told my therapist any of this. I just told her that he treated me horribly and that I can't really talk about it with her without crying. She didn't push and said I was the one who gave birth and went through all that, and postpartum. Nothing is more important than a healthy mother and a healthy baby, and that I shouldn't be trying to rationalize it when I'm so overwhelmed. Waiting for the universe to do what you think should be done could leave you hanging indefinitely. Better to approach the problem head-on like an adult. Counseling, therapy, I don't know, maybe talking to your husband about it? Doesn't matter if he's making up for it now, it obviously still affects you. OP replies, "That's a good way of putting it. Thank you. Yes, of course I've communicated this with him. He stares at his shoes looking very sad, and he doesn't say a word. He says he has no excuses. I wish I was making some kind of progress." And now, on to the update. The day after I made my first post, I made an appointment with a psychiatrist, and through some cosmic interference, I could get a slot on the very same day. Reading your comments really made me realize that I truly needed help. I met the doctor, and she prescribed some pills for severe PPD and told me that it might take a few weeks to kick in, but for me, the effects were almost instantaneous. Overnight, I stopped sobbing into my pillow. I wasn't contemplating offing myself. My pulse rate went down, and the biggest thing was I felt like I could finally look at my husband without feeling threatened. The noise in my head got duller. I could have a conversation with him without breaking down. I've been taking those pills for almost a month now. I don't feel like I want horrible things to happen to him anymore. I realized my brain was trying to show him what he put me through so that he would realize how much pain I was in. But thankfully those feelings are fading. I'm able to appreciate what he does for me without a knot in my stomach. He's done so much for me and my family in the last 17 months. He's woken up with me every single night. He's pressed my feet through every night feed. He's bought me whatever I asked for. He will take me out if I want to, even if he's had a shitty day. He's moved in with my parents because I wanted to, even though he can't stand my dad. Slowly, the horrible things he did are being replaced with the good things he does. I told him I'm willing to put a pin in dealing with our relationship for now because I want to concentrate on my health before making any big decisions. He said he understood, and he has also started seeing a doctor to get to the bottom of his outburst. Hopefully, we both get to a place where we can move forward. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm so glad that I took all of your advice and finally got the help I needed. Postpartum depression really is no joke. In the comments, congratulations on the medication helping you feel better. However, absolutely do not let the good things he does replace the fact that he outright abused you. Yes, focus on your health right now, but do not forget what he did. It could very well happen again. Hell, it may even happen to your kids. He physically and verbally abused you, and I hope that when you're in the right place, you'll separate from him. While it was abusive, he is also seeking help. The fact that it seems like an outlier in behavior makes it look like something else is going on. I hope it was an aberration, and they find the root of his actions. If it is a change and he's becoming abusive, then yes, leave, because no one should tolerate abuse. Honestly, it doesn't matter why he did it. The fact is, he did it. Whatever caused him to become an abusive prick is obviously still in him, and the fact that he didn't love her enough to not disrespect and hurt her will never just disappear because she is taking medication. So, I wanted to think about what you said before replying. Essentially, that's saying no one can change. He has recognized his fault and is working to fix it. He's working to make amends with her. We are getting a snapshot here, and from what she indicated, this wasn't normal behavior. People can do stupid things. I'm not saying it justifies the behavior, but she thinks he's a good man. I hope it was a one-time thing, and it's on OP to look at the relationship and judge whether this is a pattern and if she should walk away. She clearly is also working on her mental health as well, so the situation just sounds like it has been bad all round. I'm just not someone who jumps on the dump him immediately bandwagon because it isn't always the answer. After the first post, I did think she should leave him, but this post makes me think wait and see what comes out of this counseling to see whether it is salvageable if that's what she wants. Drugs aren't the answer long term, but I know PPD can seriously affect people's judgment, and she should make choices clear-headed. And OP replies, "Thank you. That is what I'm trying to do. I want to work with professionals to get a clear idea about why that happened, but not right now. I'm just so tired. I don't have the strength to deal with another huge life decision, and it doesn't feel like an emergency for me. I'm currently living with my parents, so I'm not alone with him. He has never been a violent man. He never so much raised his voice at me or anyone for that matter. My parents absolutely adore him. I have my guard up, and I'm treading carefully. I have had multiple surgeries, and childbirth has wrecked me. I need to work on myself first before making any big decisions. I'm really concerned that she's hiding the details from the therapist. Who knows if pills are fixing or compensating for the issues? I used to hide details from my therapists, although it wasn't a situation like this one, and it is very detrimental to the therapy. In my case, I thought I already understood some painful stuff from my childhood, so I tried to brush by it. Luckily, I found a really attentive therapist who kept calling me back to moments I teared up. Being honest is really important. You have to be ready to let yourself hurt. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.